What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring you incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is a world traveler. He might question me on that. He is a teacher. He is also a podcast host. He offers private tutoring around public speaking, and he offers speaking/interview classes. His tagline is, "Everyone is interesting if you ask the right questions." I couldn't agree more. Please welcome VIP guest, Tony Rambles. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on. This is exciting.
Yeah, you know what? You are definitely a man that's living with no labels. I had said something to you. You had the perfect answer. I was like, dang it, I want to record that. But you've done a lot of different things. You've worn a lot of different hats.
I have. And I think the thing that you said, hey, make sure you remember that.
Yeah.
Was you try something.
Yeah.
And you have to make a decision at some point, either to stick with it, so if you do, you get better, you climb the ladder, so to speak, for anybody who's watching it. Putting my air quotes there because that looks different depending on what industry you're in. And if you decide this is not for me, which I had to do a bunch of times, then the plan changes. It's different. And as you get more responsibility, you have to consider more things. That's why it's much better to make these plans and changes early on before you get married or have kids or anything like that. But don't be afraid to change the plan. And I've done that multiple times in my very short 34 years.
Yeah. Well, I think that also brings you a lot of wisdom. When you try something and you realize it's not for you, you learn from that, right? And I think some people might get stuck in different things or different careers in their life where they don't really like it, but they just stick with it because they feel like that's what they have to do. And that hence why I love the show Label Free, because we don't want to live within that box of restrictions or things that are holding us back. So I love that you have tried different things and you've moved on when you knew it wasn't a good fit, because that just means that you didn't find your purpose yet.
Right. Oh man, you mentioned the word purpose. You're about to get me started.
Let's go.
Sometimes you have to stick with something maybe a little longer than you want because of those responsibilities. Like you don't want to just walk off a job when you have stuff to pay for. You got bills, you got a place to live. So you can't just leave, but you can start making a game plan, right? Maybe it might be going back to school. It might be updating your resume, putting in applications. You kind of work this second track while you're still on the first track, until you realize or until you get to the place where you go, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Time to jump, time to move. And so for me, my purpose, I feel like, is communicating, connecting, and teaching. So doing those things, everything that I do is going to kind of fulfill one of those roles, or maybe all of them, like we do with the podcast. There's always teaching moments. You're always talking with other people, sharing their stories, sharing your own stories. And so everything that I do aligns with who I am. So I wouldn't go become a mathematician. Like, this is what I want to do now. No.
Yeah.
Tony, that's not you. You're not a mathematician.
Yeah.
Stay on your track, do what you do, and try to be the best at it. And so that's what I'm doing.
So what can you tell us, maybe give us a rundown of different things different careers or industries you've been in, so people have an understanding of what your journey has looked like?
So I think there are three big ones. So I was graduating high school, was a good student, but was so tired of school. I was over it. I was ready to get out of there and do something different. So oil and gas was what I went into because my dad and my stepmom, I had other relatives that were doing it as well. Good money. But the kind of work though it can be very long hours, maybe outside, 10, 12, 14 hours. 1 week, 91 and a half hours I worked outside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you want to stick with it, there are other avenues that you can do. But like I said before, this is not the life for me.
Yeah.
So I got out of there. The next big one was banking. Because I was in school, worked my way basically through college in banking, worked at Chase for 3 years or so. And then once I graduated college, I'm thinking, man, I got this diploma. I got some paper behind my name now. Is this the future for me? Is it banking? At the time, I was training to be a relationship banker, which means I have the Series 6, Series 7s. I have some certifications now. So they're investing time into me and money. And there was so many great people that helped me along the way in that industry. But I had to say, no, I don't want to be a banker for the next X amount of years, right? Whether it was 10, 5, 20, who knows? So from there, I take the trip to China and I start my life in education. And so that's a whole episode on its own. But being in Suzhou, China introduced me to being in the classroom. Now, at the time I was teaching kindergartners. So we got these little kids full of energy, running around. I was like a show, you know? So it was lots of fun. But when I get back, my wife and I go, okay, is education it? Is this what I want to do now for the X number of years, 5, 10, 20, whatever? I'm going into year 7. And I said, yes. Okay, let's really put the eggs in this basket. And so I've been a high school teacher for 6 years now, going into year 6. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and definitely have a lot of stories in education.
Teenagers. They are lots of fun, I bet.
They are. I think it's really easy to kind of get into this space where it's like, oh, you know, the next generation, this and that. You hear a lot of talk like that. But again, what did I say? My gifts are connecting and communicating and teaching. In the classroom, I get to do all of those things, and you really get to, you can't make people do stuff, right?
Yeah, no.
Teenagers are a rushing river. You know, you can't stop it. You can only help to try to direct it in the right way.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do in the classroom. So it's a lot of fun, but there are definitely challenges that come with it.
Good for you. So what did you teach those kindergartens when you were in China?
I taught English as a second language.
Oh, okay.
So it was very fun, and you would do stuff like, okay, so you have this phone. Right. So I would have a phone, maybe like a stuffed animal, right? Okay. Just pretend this is a stuffed little bear. Okay. And I would go bear, bear, and they would repeat. And I would say bear, 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 and then I would throw the bear across the room, and they would just die laughing. Okay.
That's cute.
You know, I go retrieve the bear, and I do it all again, and then you pick up the next thing, ball, 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 you know, hat, cat, whatever. Yeah. And you just have these manipulatives that you can use that they can hold. You may have them slap it, and then you throw it, and then of course they go crazy again. You run, you slide on the ground, and it's.
Oh my God, you're an awesome teacher. You're an awesome teacher.
I do my best.
Okay, so little kindergartners are like, you know, squirrel. Like any shiny thing, squirrel, they get get very distracted very easily. So teenagers, though, can be very stubborn and can have lots of attitude, think they know it all. They are ready to be adults and just take on the world. So what is the difference between teaching kindergartners versus teaching teenagers?
I love teaching teenagers because you can have the difficult conversations, right? They understand the nuance. They understand the jabs and the jokes and those kind of things, of course, to a certain extent. Yeah, you got to be able to self-regulate as a teacher, of course, but they understand those kind of things. And we can talk about playing video games. We can talk about the movies that come out and those kind of things. Yeah. And I use those things to relate to the kids because now they can teach me too. Yeah. How we're learning from each other. There's this mutual understanding and respect, and we, you know, you can be fond. Like there are some kids I'll remember forever because they're good people, and so you can connect on that level with that age group, and on a different level than you can connect with, you know, kindergartners. Right? We're not talking about, you know, the new 2K is dropping. Like, what do you think? You know, so yeah. So that's the difference.
What do you teach? What subject?
I teach professional communications, also known as speech class.
Oh my God. So, okay, here, fun fact about me is I was like terribly shy, like that, like I was just shy forever. And when I got into high school, like I was still really shy, but I love fashion. So I stuck out because I always wore something different than all the rest of the kids. So I forced myself to take speech class. I loved my speech teacher because that teacher allowed me to step out of my comfort zone and really embrace speaking. And by the time that class was over, I really loved, you know, speaking, and, you know, it just taught me a lot. So I thank you. Thank you for what you do. For if it wasn't for teachers like you, I wouldn't be probably doing this today. Okay, well,
It's
let's shift gears a
great.
little bit. So
Mhm.
you got to be the cool teacher because you got a podcast. Do your students know that you have a podcast?
Oh, I plug my podcast all the time.
Oh, good.
All the time.
Oh, yeah. So what do you they think that?
So at first they're like, whatever, you got a podcast, anybody can have a podcast. And then I start to show them and I talk about it. I'm like, oh, like you really have a podcast. Like it's for real. And start talking about the people I have on and I've interviewed these people. And, so I think that they think that is cool.
Yeah,
I always have kids saying, okay, when you going to put me on the show? Like, when are you going to have me on? I'm like,
sure.
no minors. When you graduate, we'll think about it. And I have had kids on that graduated from the school. There was one girl, yeah, she
Wow.
got a track scholarship to Harvard.
Oh, wow.
And
Awesome.
this is a young Black girl. So, that's a different level that we're talking about. So when again, everybody's interested if you ask the right questions. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, track scholarship to Harvard as a young Black woman in
Mm,
today's time. I'm like, that is an episode. And of course, she's amazing.
yeah.
So, you reach out and, I already knew her. I had a
Yeah.
relationship with her. So I knew that I felt like she'd be okay in front of the camera, being
Yeah.
able to talk and explain herself. Super smart. She's at Harvard. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So,
Exactly.
that's,
Amazing.
those are always the things I think about. Yeah. Yeah. You just, these kids, they need an opportunity to shine too and to spread their wings and be exposed to different opportunities. And I like to give them that as much as I can.
Wow. Yeah, I think and you're also making a huge impact on their lives in a positive way. So, being able to communicate and, get learning those skills is very important. It helps you with being successful in life, right? Had I not stepped out of my comfort zone and learned how to speak and, just embrace like just being uncomfortable, I wouldn't have achieved some of the things I've achieved today. So I think that what you do is great. So talk to us a little bit about your private tutoring that you offer. You offer private tutoring. Is this for your students or is this for everybody?
This is for everybody. I do it through a website called Wisent. I think that's how you say it. Uh, but I wanted to look at a way to expand my reach.
Okay.
And, as a podcaster, you kind of try to do other things to be able to bring in money so that you can
Oh yeah.
really do it the way that you want to do it. Most of us want to do it full time, but, you got to find a way to generate the income.
Yep.
So I felt like that would be a good opportunity for me to have this reach outside of the classroom to be able to teach not just maybe teenagers but also adults. I
Yeah.
work with a guy right now who is he's a psychologist and he wants to do more stuff and give presentations about mental health.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, how do I do that? How do I formulate these speeches and presentations and stuff? So we've been working together and that has been a lot of fun. So it's kind of like my classroom where I'm going to give whoever I'm working with the creative license to be
Yeah.
able to be themselves, but also present something that's professional, that's good, that's valuable,
Yeah.
but the way that they would do it. I can't teach people to do what I do and
Right.
say, okay, let's see what you bring to the table. Let me hear your stories. How can we craft that into something that people want to listen to and have people coming back? So I teach people how to speak in front of others, and the prep that goes into it
Sure.
beforehand too. So yeah, just
Wow.
like the classroom.
That's awesome. So if someone wants to do like if they are just trying to get up on like just a public stage and start speaking about, they could come to you and you could tutor them and help them get to the level that they need to get to. And how long is
Absolutely.
what's that investment look for like for them? For how long would they have to like work with you to get to? I mean, because I'm sure not everybody's the same. I don't know. Some psychologists I would think are kind of dry. So to work on them getting their personality out might take a little bit longer than others. No.
It depends on where you are. Like
Yeah.
some people are naturally gifted speakers. Like they can do it. They can stand up in front of we see the kids all the time on TikTok and IG and everything else. Like they're naturally, they just got it.
Yeah.
So for that person, it may just take a few tweaks. It may
Yeah.
just take okay, how do we do our prep, right? So it's really dependent on the person, what they want, and where they want to go with it. And then just kind of how much work they need. Because if you're somebody who doesn't like getting in front of people, but you want to, we may need to spend a little bit more time together, 3 or 4 or 5 sessions. But you may have somebody that's like, well, I kind of wrote something already. I want somebody to look at it and kind of maybe critique it or tweak it a little bit. And that may only be 1 or 2 sessions with that person. So it just depends on what they want, what they need. And then as the sessions start, how much value do they feel like they're getting, and should they continue, right? It's all based on that other person. I'm always going to do what I feel is best for them. I wouldn't say you got to do these 5 automatic sessions.
Well, yeah.
You might be good after 2.
Yeah.
Shoot. And I think that's how I choose to run it. And I think it's been successful so far.
I love it. No, I think that's awesome. So I have a question. So what are 3 tips you could give someone that is having trouble with maybe like their speech or communicating that maybe would help them to get over a hump? Maybe they're a little bit further along in their speaking career or speaking in front of people or, whatever it might be. What are 3 tips that you could offer them?
So practice and preparation are always going to be key. So no matter what you put together, the more you practice it and the more you prepare it, that's going to be best. I would say those are bonuses. One of the key tips, if you're in front of people, don't be afraid of the pause, the silence, because it allows you to, number one, get rid of some of those filler words like, like, nah, I'm saying, right? Some of that kind of stuff. We need to kill all of that. So the pause is very, very, very useful. Also, one of my favorite tactics to do is when you're starting a presentation, you can start a story, but not end it until the end of the presentation. So coming back to that story, tying up those loose ends with the information that was given. So that's one of my favorite things. And then number 3, I think is most important, and it is embracing your personality with how you present.
Yeah.
If you are a joke teller, use those jokes, obviously in moderation, depending on your audience and where you are, all of these things count. But if you're somebody who's great with delivering numbers, if you have manipulatives, if you are very short story. I was in class one day and I go, all right, if anybody in here can do a backflip, I'll give you 100. So this wonderful girl, she comes up, is a gymnast unbeknownst to me. And whoop, does her speech, does a backflip, just no hands right there. I'm like,
oh, wow.
All right.
You're down 100.
That is 100 automatic.
Yeah.
That's a great example of her using what she has, inserting it into her presentation, and now it's something that's engaging and valuable.
Yeah.
So that's number 3.
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's a great tip. You also offer speaking/interview classes. What is different between the private tutoring versus these classes?
So I think that would be where you have, multiple people in there, more group classes. And then speaking in interviews, that's going to be a little bit different than a presentation, right? That's just kind of looking at facial expressions, understanding nuance. Also, when we start talking about interviews, you have to know how to answer the questions in the best way, but also make sure that they're not these canned, rehearsed answers that everybody gives. Like, oh, I'm hardworking, self-motivated, like everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's been used over and over.
But yeah, a lot of it overlaps though, because I'm always going to say, okay, what are the stories that bring these characteristics to life? So if you're saying you're hardworking, now let's talk about how that has come into play in terms of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a lot of the same stuff. The audience is just different.
I like that. Speaking of audience, let's talk about your podcast. What is the name of it?
Yeah. The Living Numbers Podcast.
Yes, I like it. I was listening to it before we started recording or before we jumped into this meeting. So why do you say everyone is interesting if you ask the right questions? I love that. I think that is so right on the money, and it's such a great tagline. Why do you say that?
Because it is 100% true. I think that once you get people talking about, again, you mentioned the word purpose.
Yeah.
Their purpose, then a lot of times you will find that a lot of times people can talk forever about those things.
Oh yeah.
So now you've piqued their interest. What do they do? What do they like? And if you can ask questions that are in that vein,
Yeah.
now you have something special. I think the difference, I guess, between people is some people may like just a few things. Like, I like these things. This is what I stick to, and that's it.
Mhm.
And then other people, they're like a bunch of stuff. Like myself. I could talk about video games. I could talk about sports. I've been to China. I've worked all these different jobs. I have 14 brothers and sisters. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Yes, yeah. It's a madhouse. It's crazy, but if you ask the right questions now, as if people are watching, they can see all the stuff in my background. These are all things about me. I'm a family man, so asking those right questions, I think, puts you in the position to have a great conversation with anybody.
Yeah. And you being a teacher of speech and communication, do you think that it helps you to ask the right questions on your show to your guests?
Yes. Yes, because you get different perspectives.
Mhm.
The kids that are growing up now, I always think about, they've grown up with social media since
Yeah.
they were, before they could speak, social media was here. I have kids. I'm like, you were born in 2000.
Yeah.
I was in high school in the year 2000.
Yeah.
So they've grown up with a different perspective in life. So teaching them and getting their feedback, they help me to think about things differently,
Mm.
especially when I'm interviewing a guest that is, a lot younger than I am.
Yeah.
So I had this guy when I was 22, and his perspective, although he's amazing, is different than mine. So speaking to kids in that age range helped me to kind of get a little bit more of that and use it in my show.
I love that. Yeah, I would. Yeah, you definitely get a little bit more versatile when you have, guests of different ages. And so, what could people expect to hear or learn or just gain from listening to your show?
Well, I'm always going to have on somebody that's interesting with a story to tell. No matter if they have been in, a psychologist, they're a lawyer, they own their own business. They started their own basketball league in their backyard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So you're always going to have somebody on that is interesting, that has a wonderful story to tell.
Yeah.
But they're always going to have an opportunity, by me asking the right questions, to offer that value. How did they get there?
Yeah.
What are the things that they had to go through? What are they looking to do next with their expertise? And I'm also going to share my own stories on the show as well. So it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be insightful. And it's always going to be interesting.
I love it. With that being said, Tony, where can they find you? Can you let people know how they can connect with you, follow you, support you, and listen to your show?
Well, the Living Numbers podcast is on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the big dogs, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's going to be there. I have a link tree in that description. So that's where you can get to my lessons. You can get to all of the different links. You can support, purchase merch, right? I got t-shirts and hoodies. So if you go to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, that's pretty much where I post a lot of my content of the show, and outside of the show, me playing softball and stuff like that too.
Awesome.
That link's going to be in that description, just the Living Numbers podcast. And yeah, just follow it there and you find everything.
Excellent. You guys, I'm gonna put that link. I'm gonna put a couple of his links in the show notes. So I'm gonna take the guesswork out of it for you. So go follow his show on Apple or Spotify. Go check out his link tree if you're interested in working with him as a tutor or taking one of his classes if you're dealing with some communication or speaking interview issues. Or go follow him on social media, because that is one of the best ways to support us and check us out and know what we're doing. Just up to date, real time life. Tony, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Try stuff. You got to try everything. I feel like within reason, right? I'm not telling you to be self-destructive, but when it comes to figuring out your purpose and who you are, it's okay to try things. And then if it doesn't work, change course, reset, try something else.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's never going to get old, because I firmly believe that is a great way to find your purpose. Tony,
Absolutely.
it's been a blast talking to you today, hearing your story. You are definitely a man living with no labels and having a positive impact on our youth and on the world outside of what you do as a teacher. So thank you for what you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on. It's been wonderful.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.